Okay, what is an everyday watch? Is the Omega Aqua Terra a good everyday watch? Could this be a good watch for you? Who even am I? So these are all the questions that I'm going to try to answer in the upcoming video. Hopefully you enjoy this video. I'm so awkward, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'll catch you after the jump. What's up? My name is Brandon. This is the Minute Marker, and this channel is basically me talking about my interests with watches, fashion, photography. But today we are going to be focusing on the Omega Aqua Terra, which is a watch that I've had the pleasure of owning since, I want to say, January of 2019, 2020? Which means I've had quite a lot of experience with it and can speak to what it is like to own it over a long period of time and how I feel about it today. Alright, so the first point I want to make is if James Bond were real, this would be his watch. This seems like a far more logical choice than the Omega Seamaster 300 meter. This is something that can be worn with a suit. This really does embody that beach to boardroom aesthetic that Rolex had very much epitomized not too long ago. Let's just take a look at whether this could indeed be your next or your only watch. So let's get the specifications out of the way. This watch is 38 millimeters in diameter with a 13.2 millimeter thickness and a 44 millimeter lug to lug. Inside it beats the Omega Caliber 8800, which is anti-magnetic to 15,000 Gauss and has a power reserve of 55 hours. Now that we've gotten the on-paper specifications out of the way, let's discuss what this watch is like in day-to-day life by looking at its different parts and how they come together to create the whole. So the first thing you're going to notice when you pick up this watch is the dial. There is a fantastic amount of depth created here through the applied markers that are in a shark's teeth shape, being taller at the outer edge of the dial than they are towards the center. There is also a striped, quote-unquote, teak deck pattern used on the dial running horizontally from east to west. This has been changed from the north to south orientation we saw in the pre-2017 models. The hands are almost Dauphine in profile, with the minute hand having a broad arrowhead at its tip. Both hands are faceted, flat on top with the facets to the side and at the very tip of the hour hand. Moving on from the dial to the case, we can see a beautiful dance of lines and curves that make up the 38mm case of the Aqua Terra. It does sit a little bit high on wrist due to the over 13mm of thickness, which is a tad bit much for a watch of this size. However, the very strong design and the shorter lugs definitely make up for it in wear on the wrist. Next, we move on to the way in which the watch is held onto the wrist, the bracelet. We have here a 3-link flat link style bracelet with the center links polished and the outer links brushed, meeting in a butterfly clasp that is branded with the Omega logo. One side needs to be lifted up using the dual push button closure before the other side can then be opened. Now this bracelet brings us to one of the points of contention with this watch. As pretty as the polished center links are, as soon as you get the watch, they show wear extremely quickly, picking up scratches that pop in the sunlight like nothing else you've ever seen. Beyond this, the clasp itself, being a butterfly closure and not a diver style clasp, does make it a tad bit difficult to get a perfect fit on your wrist. There are indeed half links, however, you know the way it works, you're probably going to end up wearing this one a little bit loose. Now let's talk about the movement inside it. As I mentioned, this has a 55-hour power reserve, which is down from the 60 hours of the 41mm variant of this watch. Realistically, if you have a rotation, this watch is still going to be perfectly fine being swapped out here and there for your other watches. Beyond that, what I think is really significant here is the 15,000 Gauss anti-magnetic rating. In our day-to-day lives, we come in contact with magnets all the time, whether it be in your laptop, in your phone, your computer. Does laptop count as a computer? I guess it does. Never mind. The bottom line is there's magnets everywhere. And if you want an everyday watch, your watch needs to be able to handle those problems without getting magnetized, which can affect your timekeeping capabilities. Okay, so everyday watch. That's a really weird, vague term, especially when you think about the fact that way back, most people would have had one watch at the very max that they did everything in, whether it was mowing the lawn, doing dishes, going to work. Some people refer to this as the gentleman's watch, something that could be a little more dressy and that you could carry off, pull off? What? Something that would look good in a corporate setting, but then also something that you could use on the weekend, bash around a little bit. All right, so I have had the Omega Aqua Terra for a while now. I absolutely love this watch. There is something about it that's extremely elegant. The shape of the case, the twisted lugs. There's just so many things that come together to make this design so beautiful and expressive and versatile that it works in so many different scenarios. And I think over time, this watch has really become something that's worked its way into so many different outfits and so many different occasions that even if I didn't absolutely love the watch when I first got it, which I did, there's always that initial period of weird doubt where you wonder if maybe you should have got a different watch. But I think over time, it's worked its way into my life and I've just come to love it more and more. This watch is really special to me. This was actually a gift from my grandmother. I'd been saving up for years to buy my first luxury watch, and she basically took me to 80s around Bethesda when I had gone to visit her for one Christmas, and she saw how much I loved this watch. Basically, she got it for me and told me not to spend the money that I'd saved. Of course, me being me, I made bad financial decisions later, and I got another watch. But we don't talk about that yet. Anyway. So this is a watch that I have worn to job interviews. It's a watch that I've worn to hang out with friends. It's a watch that I've worn to go out to bars. And it's held up through everything. I will say that if you have an aversion to polishing and the fine scratches that accompany them, this watch may not be for you. There's always Tudor or Rolex who have a majority of their sports watches being entirely brushed, and that's probably going to be your best bet. For someone who likes just a little bit of flash and fun in your life, then this definitely could be the watch for you. How do I feel after this much time? Honestly, I think if I could do things all over again, I may have gone with a Grand Seiko. But that has entirely to do with my own personal taste and the story of how I came to my first luxury watch. It's a very long, meandering one with a lot of indecision. You know what? Let me know in the comments if that's a story you would like to hear, and I will make a video about it, about how I decided on which first watch to buy, some of the difficulties that I had when actually trying to make that decision, how long it took me to save up all of that money. But let me know if that's something that you would want to hear about. So I'm going to be frank, I'm not the type of person who babies any of my things, whether it's camera gear, watches, clothing. I believe that if you own something, you should use it. That's not to say that you shouldn't be taking care of it. But I don't think something that's built to these specifications that can withstand so much needs to be babied. We live very cushy lives now that really aren't going to do too much damage to, I don't know, to a modern sports watch. At least I don't think. And I'll be frank, I haven't had any problems so far, but you know what? I will update you if that ever does happen. So subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be updated on if I ever end up breaking my watch. So thinking about this watch in regards to my collection, I would say it's definitely up there in the top 2, which isn't saying much since I only really have 3 really nice watches. Maybe 6 overall. Also, let me know if you want to stay to the collection, and that's something that we could do. But this is a watch that's really grown on me. I will say that its thickness, once again, is one of the few things that let it down. And that's where some of the other watches in my collection, like the Tudors, really do a lot better. At least the Black Bay 58 and the Black Bay 36. But there's absolutely no denying that when these watches are all side by side, there is still something that is intrinsically very special about the Omega. And I think it has a lot to do with the way that it plays. And if this is something that's going to mark an occasion for you, if it's something that you really want to enjoy and show off and say, hey, look at this crazy, wild, stupid thing I did and this stupid amount of money I spent, then this may be the watch for that. If you want something a little more low-key, then there's always the Rolex Explorer, for example. But that is a topic for another day. So hey, that is the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you have an Omega Aqua Terra? How long have you had yours? Do you have any great stories with it? I would love to hear all about it. Are you considering buying one of these? Talk to me about your buying decisions. If you have any questions, please put them down below, and I would love to read through them and get back to as many as I possibly can. Like I said, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'm planning to cover more watch content and fashion content on this channel. And we'll see how things go. Let me know what more you would like to see, and I will try my best to do that for you. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being you, and I will see you next time. Peace.